Now, Emperor Xi is in power and he wants to thoroughly study and implement Xi Jinping's thought on water management. Of course, publishing a book is a must, because the thickness of the book matches Xi Jinping's thick-skinned nature. So, within 2 weeks of the book's release, Beijing faces a massive flood. Hi everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're all having a great day. Welcome to today's show. You know, recently Typhoon Doksuri, due to President Tsai Ing-wen's magical powers, no, that's not correct. Due to the pressure, gradient force and global winds, the typhoon went to Beijing and Hebei regions of China, leading to floods. Moreover, the rainfall from this typhoon was extremely heavy. And we all know that the urban development in China hasn't been focused on facilitating water supply or drainage capacity. Instead, they only had real estate development and increasing GDP in their minds. The issue of poor urban planning has always been an open secret. Therefore, every time there is a strong typhoon or heavy rainfall, severe water-related disasters are almost inevitable. So, you know, while in Mandarin talking about such disasters, they use 天灾人祸, meaning natural and man-made calamities. So they use natural and man-made together in one sentence. Why are natural disasters and human-made problems frequently mentioned in the same context? Natural disasters, when combined with poor policies, corrupt governance, inadequate urban planning and water management, can escalate into major catastrophes. Every time China encounters flooding, it's always extremely severe. Events like these major floods that result in the loss of many lives seem to happen almost every year in China. The probability and severity of these are several times greater than in other countries. Could it be that Chinese people are just unlucky? Is the country cursed? Yes, the country has been cursed by the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP's official media always likes to say there is a once-in-a-century event, or once-in-a-50-years event, or once-in-140-years event, thinking that this can provide self-comfort and deceive the public by saying, see, it's just bad luck. It's not because the party is incapable, corrupt, and rotten, which is why the damage is particularly severe. It's not because under the rule of the CCP government they never managed to deploy advanced measures to mitigate the impact of natural disasters and reduce damage, blaming it all on the climate and absolving the Communist Party of China of any wrongdoing. Even the deaths of 30 million people due to Mao Zedong's policies are attributed to the weather, not the regime's actions. But it's not only China that faces water-related issues. In the Netherlands, they reduce impacts coming from natural disasters by building underground channels, allowing drainage throughout the entire country. In Tokyo, in Japan, they have disaster prevention underground temples, which is a massive underground drainage system extending 6.3 kilometers and 50 meters deep, safeguarding the rivers of the 3 major counties since 2006. A country that claims to be a global superpower, the world's second largest economy, should be capable of such planning, right? So, China is a joke and not a global superpower at all. And of course, the floods in China kill many people every year, which is terrible, and don't let me even start on property damage. So the Communist Party also has to promote their historic achievements in water management every year. It's been 70 years of governance, and yet every year floodwaters still rise more than 2 stories high, drowning numerous people. It's hardly any different from almost a century ago. Is this their historic achievement in being utterly ineffective? Now, Emperor Xi is in power and he wants to thoroughly study and implement Xi Jinping's thought on water management. Of course, publishing a book is a must, because the thickness of the book matches Xi Jinping's thick-skinned nature. So, within 2 weeks of the book's release, Beijing faces a massive flood. This is nature teaching him a lesson. It's heaven's way of slapping the face of this incompetent, walking failure, Xi the Flu, who has already lost his mandate of heaven. Meanwhile, those local officials under his rule are nothing short of being butchers of the people. Some people might say, wow, that's some serious accusations. Aren't you exaggerating a bit? But have you ever noticed that every time there is a strong typhoon or heavy rainfall, China's water reservoirs always go through a sudden unannounced discharge? Unannounced discharges are a major move to shift the blame because it allows them to confuse the people and then pass off this heartless behavior as a natural disaster. Unannounced discharges are man-made disasters. They make the damage caused by flooding even worse. In an ideal world, they could have given advance notice to residents living downstream to prepare for evacuation. That's one of the primary functions of having those reservoirs, isn't it? However, most of China's water reservoirs and dams actually lack the capacity of proper storage, and officials under the control of the CCP regime are not truly accountable before the Chinese people. They only report to their superiors, so every time there is a flood, they first pretend that everything is fine, and then when the dam is on the brink of bursting, in order to save the dam, they perform an unannounced discharge. It's as if they're saying to the downstream citizens, it's time to die, or rather it's about safeguarding specific areas from flooding, so they perform unannounced discharges. This is the water management with Chinese characteristics. Wang Weiluo, an expert in land planning and water resources residing in Germany, analyzed why Zhuozhou was flooded and turned into a milk tea colored basin this time. He stated that from a geographical perspective, water from Beijing wouldn't flow to Zhuozhou. It's the result of a human-made water infrastructure that directed the disaster to Zhuozhou, making it a disaster playground. In the upper reaches of the Haihe River basin, rivers pass through floodgates. The middle section of the river undergoes human-made modifications, and the flow of the river is controlled by diversion channels. However, this diversion control isn't aimed at alleviating flood pressure. It's more about where the Communist Party wants the flood waters to go. That's where they go. This design was turned Zhuozhou into a flood barrier for Beijing and Xiong'an's new area. What's even more despicable is that the CCP has never planned flood prevention exercises for Zhuozhou. Can this be considered premeditated murder? I believe it fundamentally is. Moreover, unannounced discharges are an illegal method of releasing floodwaters. Even CCP officials don't try to conceal this malevolent intention. Ni Yuefeng's secretary of the Hebei Provincial Committee and director of the Provincial People's Congress Standing Committee astonishingly mentioned during his visit to Baoding City and the Xiong'an new area on August 3rd, while inspecting disaster relief efforts, that all the Hebei province must serve as Beijing's protective moat. In China, since the media is under the control of the Communist Party, its supervisory function has transformed into being a propaganda machine that aids the party in its endeavors, effectively wiping away any criticism. Every disaster relief effort becomes a grand showcase of the Communist Party's extraordinary leadership. They've managed to turn disaster relief into a performance. That's quite remarkable, actually. The concept of Chinese-style disaster relief involves getting a few strong men together to save a single tree trunk, and having disaster relief personnel who've just completed their tasks without a speck of dirt on them shake hands with leaders. Philip J. Cunningham, an American independent scholar who previously worked as a BBC journalist and covered the Tiananmen Square events of 1989, analyzed China Central Television's flood rescue reports in an article on Substack. He pointed out that it's difficult to find a CCTV flood report that doesn't include People's Liberation Army soldiers, armed police, party volunteers, or rescue workers wearing uniforms, as these people are what the reports are really intended to emphasize. What's even more bizarre is that if civilian rescue teams from other regions want to assist disaster relief in Zhuozhou, they require an official invitation letter from the local government. Otherwise, their efforts would be considered illegal rescue attempts. This situation has been humorously referred to by Chinese citizens as malicious rescue. I think there are several reasons behind this. The first is the fear that genuine rescue teams might uncontrollably spread the information on the actual state of the disaster in the area, leading to a difficult-to-control public opinion. Additionally, if civilian rescue teams were to discover that official rescue efforts are ineffective or merely staged without actual relief work being done, that wouldn't be acceptable either. What the CCP wants every time is to emphasize that everything you have is due to the party's strong leadership. This isn't just a top priority, it's the sole purpose, while other matters become insignificant. Staged disaster relief and performative rescue efforts are all for the sake of CCP's propaganda, and they only serve the party's interests. According to them, only under the guidance of the party can the Chinese people overcome natural disasters, and only the party can safeguard the people's well-being. But what is the truth? The truth is that a significant portion of these disasters is caused by the CCP itself. The truth is that many of the citizens suffering due to the lack of genuine rescue efforts can only silently endure their pain. In addition to malicious rescue, there are also the so-called malicious donations in China. Every time a disaster occurs, the Beijing Red Cross starts soliciting donations from the public, and this time they even made a new term, malicious donations. On August 3rd, the Chinese Red Cross raised the minimum donation amount on their website from 0.01 yuan to 1 yuan. The reason given was that too many people were donating 0.01 yuan, and the Chinese Red Cross considered this amount to be a deliberate insult. Therefore, they increased the minimum donation amount, which angered many internet users. One netizen, whose nickname is Tomato Scrambled Eggs, said that the amount of money donated is the people's heartfelt intention. How can it be called a malicious donation? What kind of mentality led to the invention of a term malicious donation? The fact that the Beijing branch of the Red Cross is controlled by the CCP government is a well-known secret. There have been numerous reports of corruption involved in donated funds from 1998 to the present. Essentially, it's an organization with extremely low credibility. And just when you think that these actions couldn't sink any lower, the CCP manages to showcase another extreme level of shamelessness. Right after the typhoon came to China with the floods, the secretary of the Zhuozhou Municipal Party Committee, the mayor and the leaders of the Emergency Management Bureau were absent for several days, leaving disaster-stricken residents to escape by themselves. And after disappearing for several days during the flood period, they had the audacity to issue a notice to the disaster-affected residents requesting donations from them. I feel very sorry for the Chinese people, actually. While many people in Taiwan are aware that there are a lot of brainwashed Chinese individuals known as little pinks, they are, after all, going through natural and human-made disasters. In response, Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen and Vice President Lai Ching-te both used simplified Chinese characters on Twitter to extend their condolences to the disaster-affected people in neighboring countries. In contrast, the Chinese Communist Party is busy sending military aircraft to harass Taiwan. Recently, former Japanese Prime Minister and Deputy President of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, Taro, visited Taiwan. This marks the highest-level visit to Taiwan by a senior member of the Liberal Democratic Party since the diplomatic break between Taiwan and Japan in 1972. Fundamentally, it's an affair unrelated to China. Yet the CCP not only fails to provide sincere disaster relief, but also dispatches various types of military aircraft, including fighter jets, bombers, and reconnaissance planes, 25 different varieties of those, to harass Taiwan during this time. Furthermore, the official response from the Chinese government is surprisingly swift and efficient. Just after Taro and President Tsai Ing-wen jointly attended the Katagalan Forum and stated that Japan, the United States and Taiwan need to be mentally prepared for combat, the Chinese embassy in Japan protested, stating that it was overestimating oneself and talking nonsense. The money spent on sending these military aircrafts on a single trip could have been used to help numerous families devastated by flooding. It can only be said that Winnie the Pooh is one of the worst rulers in China's history, occurring once in 5,000 years. Should he be classified as a natural disaster or a human-made calamity? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please press like, subscribe and share. This is Stan. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!